Hey guys, I'm Naya and welcome back to the channel. For today's video, with YCS Pasadena happening last weekend and with YCS Dortmund happening right now at the time of recording this video, I figured I would make a video about the question whether or not do we need an emergency ban list? Now, I will share my thoughts, obviously. I will discuss everything when it comes to this, and then at the end, I will give you my answer. And please let me know in the comments down below, what do you think? Do we need it? Or should we just wait for the regularly scheduled ban list, even though we don't really know when it's coming? Before we start, I just want to quickly shout out my Patreons. I'm so thankful for you guys' support. If any of you want to support me over there, make sure to check the link in the description below. So, getting right into it. People like to say we are in a tier 0 format because usually how a tier 0 format is considered is when decks take up more than 65% representation in top cut. And if we look at YCS Pasadena, more than 80% of the top cut when it comes to top 32 was taken by Ishizu tier elements. So immediately people were like, oh, we're in a tier 0 format. It's horrible right now. You know, the most threatening deck is obviously tier Ishizu. The deck is insanely dominant. And a lot of people don't like it because the power gap is so big between this deck and between everything else. It's also very, very complicated. As we have seen, there have been literally tons of memes from the stream at YCS Pasadena with the insane boards, insane chain links, and you need to be very mindful of everything that's going on. You know, chain links go to like chain link 12 or something, and then there's the new chain, and it takes you to another like chain link 5, 6, and so on. You need to keep in mind how many effects were activated when it comes to you and your opponent, because the representation of the deck is so big that inevitably you're going to be playing mirror matches pretty much all day long if you go to an event. I think one of the main issues of the deck is the fact that it plays during your opponent's turn. So if you have Hofines, if you have other effects as well, when the Hofines hits something, for the most part, you're going to be able to build a board on your turn 0. So when your opponent is forced to scoop on their turn 1, it's kind of insane. Like, you didn't even get to play yet, because it's not your turn yet, but you managed to establish a board that makes your opponent pick up their cards, which it is wild. The format is wild. Like, I'm not saying it's healthy. I'm not saying it's okay necessarily, but I do realize that some people like it. And if we look at Dortmund, like I said, it's happening right now, and more than 2,500 people registered for the YCS, and that's saying something. Yu-Gi-Oh is like, especially I think since the release of Master Duel, even more players came into the game. Post-COVID, of course, that was a thing as well, so more people are excited. But even though the format is tier 0 and horrible, there is still a huge amount of people just enjoying the game, because the fact to take into account is some people like the skillful format. And I get a lot of comments, and I see also a lot of comments and people just talking in threads on Twitter or something, where it's like, oh, you know, if a deck is skillful, that's not enough for us to say, oh, the format is okay. You know, we still don't like the format, even though some people say, oh, it's so skillful and that's why they enjoy it. And to me, it just feels like making fun of sort of pro players and players that genuinely enjoy those types of decks, because they do enjoy it. You know, it's not faking it, I would say. But we can't take away the fact that some people also find the format boring, which is fair. Only one deck is seeing a lot of play, a lot of representation, and you probably get annoyed trying to go up against the same deck or even playing the same deck and having to look at mirror matches all day long. Like, it is not that fun to some people. So an emergency ban list might be a way to sort of pull things back, because it does feel like it went a bit overboard. But still, to sort of keep on the track of everything I want to say, another thing I wanted to mention is the fact that when you look at some emergency ban lists in the past, what they did was they hit very specific problematic cards. For example, looking at the 2017 ban list, when they hit Quick Fix, they hit Gofu, which is a huge hit. Quick Fix went to 1. Obviously, there have been other hits as well, not just those. Northern, for example, like, you look at a certain card and it's like, okay, that card is a problem. We need to hit it. We need to address it. But in a deck like this, where RNG is such an important part of it, what are you really hitting? But we're going to talk about that in just a second. It's just a thought I wanted to throw out there. And I mentioned the RNG. I would like to go back to this. It's not just this one card combo, just like 1-for-1 with the discard used to be in the Spiral format. There's so many different things you're able to do. And that's also why I think in this format, it's not that bad, because deck building really comes into play. You need to not only be skillful, but you need to build your deck to have some kind of advantage, because for the most part, everyone is going to be on the same deck. So if you take something like Mask Change 2, which is starting to see play to be effective in the mirror match and things like that, like deck building is rewarded. When some people really like that, obviously it's a format they're going to enjoy and probably not have need for an emergency ban list. Because for example, looking at the pre-Power of the Elements format, so many decks were able to compete, and it was quite a loved format, I would say, because many people were able to play their favorite decks, which were also able to sort of be at the same power level. But my issue with it was, and I have heard a lot of people say the same thing, is that you cannot be prepared for every single matchup. So the side deck only has 15 slots. You cannot fit every single tech card in your main deck either. So it becomes much harder to be able to pilot your way around an event where you're going to face at least 5 or 6 different decks. So I didn't really like it. I'm much more of a fan of a format where it's like 3-deck format, 2-deck format, even this 1-deck format. So there's a couple thoughts on sort of the pros and cons of actually changing this format, because some people enjoy it, some people don't. And that's perfectly fine. You know, we're all different at the end of the day. But the next thing I wanted to address is the fact that we had our ban list at the end of September. So if we actually look at the calendar, when the next one would probably be, it should be somewhere in December. So when you look at the events that are going to be played, like I said, Dortmund is happening. There's YCS Costa Rica at the end of November. There's also the Remodel YCS at the beginning of December. So there's not that many events. Like 2 of them, but 1 is remote. Some people don't even like to remote duel all that much, so it might not be as popular among players to play at that event. And at that point in time, we might be due for an actual ban list. So I genuinely don't think when you have a deck that's like the entire deck is an issue. There's not only 1 card. And with that, I would like to go back to the question I posed before. What would you actually hit? If you hit something like Itkalas, it would be too big of a hit, in my opinion. You could hit something like Hofinus to 1, maybe, so to take away the deck's ability to play during your opponent's turn, which is fine. You can also hit Instant Fusion, you can hit the Field Spell. Those are a couple that come to mind at first. And I don't think hitting Instant Fusion would be such a big issue at a regular ban list. Like, I wouldn't really be against it. The card is OP, and the Field Spell would take away some consistency if you may be limited or something. Also, the Field Spell is what really makes a difference in the mirror match as well. But all of these hits could be implemented on the regularly scheduled ban list, because like I said, there's not only 1 problematic card if the entire deck is an issue because of its power, because of its consistency, because of the different types of disruptions, negates, whatever it puts up on the board. Another quick thing I would like to mention as well before we run this video off is the fact that some decks are actually able to hang in this format. The power might not be exactly there, but if you look at a deck like Jacob Slayer, Flunder, Exosister with Shifter, obviously, you have some counters to the deck. So it's not like you're forced to necessarily play the best deck to be able to compete. My only issue with this format, but it's not going to be changed by the emergency ban list, is the fact that we didn't have the post Darkwing Blast format for longer. And again, that's something I've heard a lot of people say, because it's really sad. Like, Bestios came out and the Bestio tier deck was so cool. You know, the Brandon High Spirit stuff was nice. But the format was like, I don't know, 1 week, 2 weeks, something like that. And that's the thing I have a problem with. I would love for Magnificent Mavens to come out somewhere in December maybe, so we would have more time to play with that deck. But again, that cannot be changed with the implementation of an emergency ban list. So to take all of it into account, everything I have just mentioned, to quickly recap it, the deck is consistent, the deck is strong, the deck is everywhere, so some people find it boring. Some decks are not able to compete, so again, people don't really like that. But it is very, very high skill intensive. It's important how you deck build, so some people find it very rewarding to pilot this deck. So hopefully I covered everything in this video. Like, in my opinion, and that's probably what you have been waiting for, what do I think I don't think we need it. You might disagree with me. If you do, please let me know. But I only say this because I do expect a ban list in about a couple weeks time, and at that point we won't have that many events. Like I said, there's the remote duo YCS, there's the Costa Rica YCS, but that's pretty much it. So not many events are going to be affected by it. And obviously Pasadena and Dortmund happened, but both of them are like the only two events post the Ishizu release. So you need to have like a couple big events for people to play the full power deck. And even though we might be a bit stressed out right now with everything going on, with the intense gameplay, with the many chain links, to sort of end on a positive note, I would like to say, with that many people registering for YCS Dortmund, even though they knew what was going to happen with YCS Pasadena just taking place last week, with that many people still coming to an event, I would say that's great. And I would say that Yu-Gi-Oh! Is in a nice place right now, even though some things might be addressed, but at a regular ban list. So if we don't get one soon, or if we don't get one at all until next year, I might probably change my mind when it comes to the emergency one. But still, I guess it's just a video I wanted to throw out there to spark a discussion with you guys, to hear your thoughts on the entire thing. And yeah, to sort of say that I don't think we need it, because it would be very awkward to hit this deck with its RNG, with everything that's going on with it. So I guess we're just gonna have to wait and see what happens. So if you like the video, please like it. But most importantly, I would like to encourage you to let me know down in the comments, what do you think? And also, what do you think is going to win at YCS Dortmund? It's probably gonna be Ishizu tier, but I still wanna know your thoughts. So yeah, please like it, sub to the channel, check out all the social media, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.